And away we go.
You're listening to Live on Four Legs, the live Pearl Jam podcast experience, featuring
Mr. Stone Gossard. Fucking Cameron in the drum. Mr. Boom Gasper. You can call me Al, you can call me Ed, you just fucking call me, why don't you?
Hey everybody now, welcome to Live on Four Legs, the definitive live Pearl Jam podcast. And guess what? If I don't sound like myself, it's because I went to a fucking concert last night. Can you believe that shit?
Yeah, how about that?
I'm feeling pretty good.
It was not a dream. It really happened.
It did, and you know what? Like, it was everything that my expectations would have hoped for, and probably beyond that too, because you have to think, just like, honestly, maybe in this era, maybe that they've been 3 years out of the game and not performing with each other. Maybe there would be some sloppiness, and maybe like they'd come back and like really not know how to play certain songs. This set was pretty close to being a perfect set, even with a lot of the changes that we're going to talk about in just a second. With a lot of those changes being made, like, that was pretty good. And, there's going to be a lot of conversation that could be brought up tonight and could be extended. And I'm sure we'll extend it once, we see what happens at Ohana. Really, Ohana will be a better gauge because it feels like they're going to get a little bit more time at Ohana. Maybe not like 3 hours, definitely not 3 hours, but if they get 2.5 at one of the encores, then, maybe they can pull that off. But I feel like they might get like maybe 2:15 at the first encore, the first Ohana weekend. So yeah, look, I can go in many different directions right now, and this could be just all over the place. Like, okay, we're frantic and where to start. I did a live stream on Facebook yesterday where it was basically just that.
Yeah, well, I got a question before we get into the actual songs.
Oh yeah,
I want to know, you were there. Like, what was the atmosphere like before they went on? Could you like, was there like, obviously there was excitement, but what do you remember from like right before they went on? What was kind of the vibe of the beach there?
It was, there was some tension and there was some like, all right, come on guys, let's get going. But there was also like just pleasant, relaxed, and everybody just trying to think positive and being like, hey, like, we're excited for this. And, around us, it was pretty good around us. There were some people that it didn't feel like they were quite on top of their Pearl Jam game. Like, they seemed okay, but not, maybe not the big mega fans that you kind of expected to be around, which it's a festival. You kind of expect that all those different type of people are going to be there. But there were people to the left and people to the right and people behind and people in front of me that were. And, you can see, and I'll bring somebody up in this show who it was their first show. And she was maybe 5 foot tall and standing in front of people that were probably about 6'1". So, she's going to come back because she's a good memory from this, and like seeing her reactions to things. I was always going back to see how she was and to kind of get that positivity again and to get like everything was brand new to her and everything felt really good to her. And, like that was the kind of thing that I was looking for from this show. I initially had thought that I was going to be around like a bunch of people that I knew, and I was going to be looking for a lot of different emotional reactions. And I was around a ton of people that I knew. And, I think I got caught up in my own reactions is what I'm trying to say.
That's
I, I,
understandable.
I
Yeah.
didn't expect myself to react the way that I did. I thought that I was going to be pretty collected, that, okay, like this is just a show. This is, like this isn't really about me. It's kind of about the collective and about the community. But I couldn't help it, man. There are some moments from this show where I lose control, and I, have that realization, like, where the fuck I am, and knowing that it took so long to get to that point. There were multiple times where I could just say, "Shit, this. There's nothing better than this right now.
Well,
Nothing."
I have to give a shout out to my new best friend Tom, who
Everybody's new best
live
friend,
streamed
Tom.
who live
Tom
streamed the whole
Jones.
fucking thing from the
What's new,
rail.
pussycat?
Yeah, that dude is a hero. I
I
think we had about 2,700 people watching at some point. And yeah, that was clutch. So I got a chance to kind of watch everything from a really good vantage point and kind of take some notes and everything. But yeah, I mean, I understand, man, because even watching it on my couch, like there were a couple of points where it got to me a little bit.
Yeah, Tom, if you're listening, and trust me, I'm looking to get in touch with you. You are a featured guest on this show because look, your story, obviously right now you are the saint of the Pearl Jam community, but your story needs to be the one that's told, and I think everybody will be looking for it now, especially from what you did for everybody that was dying to either get there, because I knew so many people that were paying attention to that live stream that were supposed to go and didn't go.
Yeah.
And like for those people to get that, and not just that, but like all the people that watched it in Australia and England, and pick wherever on the map they were watching, and it was all because of him. There was nothing else going on. I tried to even live stream the first three. So I was gonna live stream the first three Gigaton songs. I was gonna do that, and I was having a bad connection, and just
Yeah.
said, all right, I'm just gonna take the video. I don't want to take the chances. So yeah, very clutch. And unfortunately, Pearl Jam had it taken down. But I think there are going to be ways where we'll be able to find it in the future. We hope so. Just again, it's
Yeah,
good to have these things.
at least until we have an official bootleg,
Right.
it's good to have.
Yeah, it'll help everybody kind of rekindle with these memories, because even the day after, like looking at the set list and kind of reading it over, there are still things that I'm like, when did he say that? Where did he say that? What happened here? And there's just so much, because a lot of my memories from this weekend is going to be like my social interactions with everybody that I went with. And I have to shout out the crew that went with me, and it was Chris, our webmaster, and it was Dave Jantausch, who I rode with the whole way from livefootsteps.org. And yes, if you're on Live Footsteps and you were trying to follow along with the set, he was having trouble with the Gigaton songs, and they were coming in kind of incorrectly. So there was a bug. He's fixing it, and it should be done in time for Ohana, in case he didn't catch that. And Dave Ruthman, who's part of Patreon, and he was originally Chris's friend, I want to say, but and is now all of our friends. So like I'm glad I got to really meet everybody, and it was more than just those guys. It was everyone. Just such a good atmosphere being in that car with them, and then like especially the day before being at Shorestock with all them, like really good feeling out of that. And I'll leave it to Pearl Jam for the most part in this show, but like this could be a good 2 hours. And I even told the guys in the car, I said, you watch out on September 18th next year, we're doing an episode. We're recapping the whole thing. So, and they were like, absolutely fine with us. Let's do it. But here's where I want to start. And I think you just start from just the surprise that right off the bat, Gigaton was so heavily influenced in this set that I think most of us, and you and I included, because we both made our predictions for what the set list was going to be.
And we did pretty good too.
We didn't do bad at all, right? For 20 songs, what'd you get?
Yeah.
14, I got 13.
Yeah.
And a bunch of ones that I guessed were scratched off.
Yep. So about the same.
Right. Yeah. It really wasn't that bad, but on both of our levels, we went very traditional, and we had even said, kind of in passing, like, oh, it could be this, it could be this, and anywhere from, hey, they could open with a river cross to they could open with a dance of the clairvoyants, and
Yeah.
that I think we got that idea right after maybe that live stream that happened, the All in Washington live stream.
Right.
I think we kind of got that idea that, okay, Dance of the Clairvoyants is kind of an opener song, or they see it that way.
And even when the song came out, you could tell that they really liked it and they really think it's something unique and something special. So I can see this becoming a thing throughout the next tour and the next years, that this is going to be an opener, because like we've talked about, like it doesn't really fit anywhere else in a set.
Yeah, I think it can over time. I think you can kind of maybe even find a spot in the encore for it. Maybe you'll be able to find a spot, later in a main set, maybe even to close a main set if it really
Yeah.
gains that much steam at some point. But I think I agree with you. I think that this is the opener from here on out, and kind of like how on Lightning Bolt tour they did sort of the opening three trio with Pendulum being that opener. I think the opening three trio
Oh.
here being all three Gigaton is kind of like that, but switching it to being all just 100% Gigaton centric.
And this is so great. I mean, we can talk about, how they could have gone heavy emotional heartstring,
Yeah.
and they didn't. They went good vibes early,
Yes.
new song.
I love that.
It's a festival. Like, let's get everybody, because like they could have destroyed you guys. They could have destroyed this crowd with the first three songs. But
And both of us, we like,
yeah,
I picked Release to open, you picked Long Road to open, and we both were like, oh, it's gonna be tugging at our heartstrings. And like, there were some moments where they did do that, and there's one very surprising thing that didn't happen in this show that I thought was almost a lock guarantee that was going to, and then the outcome of happened to be extremely surprising and one of the best moments of the show. But like they didn't go to the well of like feeling sorry for themselves that they hadn't played in a long time. They were just like, let's let this be a positive environment. Let's let this be an energetic environment. And let's not try to make people cry because we're like,
yeah,
it's gonna happen anyway.
yeah,
So why don't we make them cry while feeling happy instead of like having all these emotions running back to them? And I think it kind of took me until like the second chorus of Dance of the Clairvoyants to be like, oh wow, like I'm singing these lyrics and Ed is singing them at the same time. The numbers keep falling on the calendars. I was like, what? Wow. It was pretty surreal. It was pretty surreal.
I mean, what a way to come out and just make a statement. Like, and you
Mm-hmm.
could tell too. This is the thing that maybe is the biggest takeaway for me, is they love these new songs. Like,
They really
there
do.
was a big
Yeah.
difference in the Gigaton songs versus the older stuff, and they killed some of the older stuff, and we'll talk about that too. But you could tell with the Gigaton songs there was like an extra little, like Ed especially was into it. He was dancing around, he was emoting, getting into it, like during Quick Escape. Jeff and Mike just kind of vibing together, like we talked about so many times. It was so good to see. Just you could just tell there was like an energy to it. They just love these songs, and they're you could tell they were just a relief that they were able to finally play them for people. That was such a big thing for me. And these first three, like, just perfect, like all better than the album versions, I thought.
Yeah, I agree. I think the one well, I thought Quick Escape was the best, but I thought 7 o'clock out of the everything on
Oh
the night was just the not the most surprising, but like the most satisfying, I would say.
yeah,
Because there was part of me that said, you know what? They're done. They'll never play this song because it is essentially about nothing but Trump. But it's about so much more, and they kind of turned it into a way where like when they said and we had Sitting Bullshit as our former president, and it was kind of saying that he basically destroyed all of what was left in our wake, and we're still dealing with the remnants. And I didn't think of that aspect before. And just that little line change kind of puts that into perspective, that like all this shit that he did. And I had been thinking about this song a little bit over the last week, and sort of like some of the lines, like talking to his mirror, what does he say, what does he say back, wake up in the morning, something about like at 7 o'clock in the morning. It was like Trump's main tweeting time because the morning news was on, and I always thought that had kind of a correlation to the song and what was happening in the world, and in America especially. And I think that might have been the catalyst for it. But I thought that they were going to dump it and say this isn't relevant anymore, but they made it feel that way just with a couple little changes. And maybe it was just something that I saw, and that's it. But it was a fantastic performance. I think the most surprising thing is that these three songs, while like all in a row, they all kind of felt like their own moment. And I want to compare that to, when you get the top songs like you usually get. Think of like going and out of release and going into like Mind Your Manners, into Animal, into Hail Hail, into Severed Hand, and like just getting all these 2 to 3 minute songs that are just bam, 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 hit you back to back. And by the fifth or sixth song, that's when you're ready to hit a song like 7 o'clock. That happened third song in.
Yeah.
And it still felt as substantial as it would have if it were the sixth.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. I mean, it's a different structure than we've seen before, but that's the thing with these new songs. Like there's not a lot of like there's not a Mind Your Manners on Gigaton.
Right.
They don't have that kind of song on that record. So yeah, they're going to work these songs in and they're going to switch it up. And I think it worked really well. We sometimes talk about some of these shows, these early album tour songs where stuff is getting figured out and stuff changes. But I wouldn't be surprised if this sticks around like this. I thought it was a fantastic opening.
Yeah, I totally agree. And look, let's not bury a lead on Quick Escape here, because Quick Escape was a barn burner. And I don't.
Mike Solo just burns that thing to the ground.
Yes, but however, did you expect Stone to have the first solo? I didn't. I thought they were both Mike solos.
Yeah.
When Stone was soloing that, I'm like, holy shit, this is a collaborative project here.
He's got the chops.
Oh, I've never doubted that for a second. We've seen it on Rockin' in the Free World, a lot of versions that we've done lately, but like to know that song and how powerful it was, and thinking that, oh, well, because it's that powerful, it's got to be McCready, and then hearing that Stone had matched that intensity that we all thought was Mike, like that brought it, I think, to a newfound respect for me.
Sure.
Like unbelievable performance. And I kind of had this like envision, and I never really said it aloud, that like Quick Escape could be a very early song like that. And it just like, after Dance of Clairvoyance, it kind of like it got some positive vibes, but like Quick Escape really got people like headbanging and screaming, and like that really kicked off a lot of people's heavy emotions into this. That was really good. I couldn't get enough of it. Loved the first three, but man, I Quick Escape and 7 o'clock were fantastic.
Yeah. Then we get a really kind of heartfelt speech from Ed, the first of many on this night. We don't have to get super into it, but just hearing him kind of like bare his soul a little bit and like let you in and be like, hey guys, like we weren't sure about this, we care about you guys, like, but we're in this together, we're gonna make it. That really was a big moment too, I thought. And leading into the song that lets you know you're at a Pearl Jam show, just another really great transition.
Yeah, and like, it's funny because even I'm gonna say the weirdest thing that I never thought I would say in my life, but before Corduroy, 3 songs that had never been played live before made me feel like I was at a Pearl Jam show.
Yeah.
I didn't need Corduroy, but Corduroy enhanced that fact. Of course it did. but like I felt it. Like these songs, like while 7 o'clock and Dance of Clairvoyance, maybe they wouldn't have worked on Vitalogy or Verses or 10. They are like Pearl Jam standard songs and ones that should go down at the end of the day in their catalog as being like close to top 50 songs, which is as good of a compliment as I can give them. If we can go back in 2 years and do deprogrammed again, I would love to see where these ones stand, especially that I think it might have been Patrick that said it. It might have been you. It might have been even me, but I think we all kind of had the thought of when these get played live, they
Yeah.
will be accepted in such a different role.
Yeah. Definitely.
But the point on Corduroy, kind of the way that they were performing it was paced out in more of a sense that it had sort of an older feel to it, that it was kind of like how you would hear it on Vitalogy, not the Corduroy of 2018 where it's like very just rip and fast and no, it's no stop, just go, and there's no like kind of like jack beat that we would talk about in 1995, 1996. There was none of that. It was just like completely full on machine gun energy. This had that pace back to it, and basically everything that wasn't Gigaton 2 had that kind of pace. And I think that really defines what came out of the show. And that's
it'll be interesting to see if that's a function of, their just, lack of playing together at this point. If that's a thing that like, oh, this is the first show
I
back in
don't
3 years.
think so.
Or if it's a
No.
function of them just getting older, and we've talked about that too. Like these songs are going to slow down.
I heard a rumor, and I don't know where I heard it, but I know I had read or heard a rumor, and I talked to so many Pearl Jam people that it doesn't, at this point, like, it could have been one of 500 people, but I heard somebody say that this was the game plan. This was always going to be the game plan going into the Gigaton tour, and I get it at this point. Like, they could have, look, think about the pacing that they would have had in 2018. And if they would have translated it over, how many songs do you think they would have gotten in this set list, in this 2 hour time slot? Probably not 20. Honestly, 20 for 2 hours is really good. And I think we take that for granted because we've seen 3 hours and we've seen 35 in 3 hours.
Yeah.
But 20 is better than most bands on their best day in
And
2
there was,
hours.
and you knew there was going to be a lot of talking, and
Oh, yeah.
that was always going to happen. And yeah, it's fine. I didn't mind.
Yeah, I kind of accept this as being the future of Pearl Jam, even though there may be songs that never see the light of day again, or if they do, it's going to be very, very rare now because these 30-song sets are going to be, if not in a relic of the past,
far between.
Yeah, it really may be for very, very, very special occasions. So. Yeah, I like this direction that they're going in now, though. I think that this was the right move and the right way to do this type of thing.
Well, after Corduroy, we get another big piece of news. We find out that Josh Klinghoffer is now a touring member of Pearl Jam, helping out on vocals and guitar.
Yeah, that's interesting, and that's cool, and I appreciate that. They were able to kind of give the kicked out Chili Pepper, not his fault at all that he was kicked out of the band. They just had an opportunity to bring Frusciante back on, and they did. But that was one thing I don't think I really thought about a lot, and I have a good vantage point of Josh. I maybe saw like 2 seconds of him because he was behind Jeff a lot of the time. I am not entirely sure what he added, to be honest with you. I
don't think he's not going to be a main part. It's just going to be like accentuating a chorus here and there or doing a backup vocal here and there. I think it's just going to be kind of like accentuating little parts. He's not going to be might not be in every song kind of a thing. If they go into Lucan at some point, is he really needed on Lucan? Probably not.
Well, I mean, if you look at Boom, I don't know how many times Boom was out for songs, and in the last couple of years, Boom had been primarily out on almost everything, even
I think I
songs like
saw him pretty. I thought I saw him on almost everything.
it wasn't. I don't know. I don't even know if I saw him on every Gigaton song
Hmm.
or any Gigaton song. To
Hmm.
be honest with you, I just after like they barely they didn't have any Boom centric stuff. I think he has
Yeah, yeah.
a good part in Better Man, but there's no Crazy Mary or anything like that he really shines on. But yeah, like he's out there for Wishlist and some of those kind of songs, but I don't know how much it was. I really
Hmm.
don't. I and really at one moment I think I looked over at him and I'm like, poor Boom. I just gotta take a
Yeah.
couple pictures of Boom because I just he he didn't really get a lot of love when Gigaton came out. Like he didn't get any. He wasn't on the record. He wasn't doing any of that, and that's
Well,
probably
yeah,
to his own
that's not his
choosing.
role. He's yeah,
Right.
he's not a studio member.
Right, exactly. But it just I think it made people kind of forget that he is a part of this as much as the other guys are. So,
Yeah.
but look, present tense I think was a really really emotional moment for me
Hey,
getting it.
we said that was going to be a
Oh my
highlighted song
god.
going forward.
Oh
That's
my
one
god.
that everyone's been talking about since The Last Dance. We knew it was going to get a featured spot, and here it is.
Yeah, and you know what? I didn't need a lot of songs. Like I didn't like emotionally need too much. And there were three that I emotionally, I guess, you know, that I didn't some that I didn't know that I needed, and this I did. I knew that I needed present tense because I
Yeah.
if I were to pick a song that defined my fandom in the pandemic, it would be this. And
I
that
think
was
it
even
is for a lot of
before,
people. Yeah.
yeah, that was before Jordan. That was before a lot of things. So, like when, especially 5 songs in that early in the set, that's rare. Like, and the way that they played it too, like, felt very like methodical and kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
building to those big moments. And it was a wonderful performance. I haven't heard a performance like Present Tense like this in a long time. So very happy to get that. Um, Never Destination was another, obviously another. I was pretty impressed by it. You could
Yeah.
tell
Yeah.
that Ed was reading some lyrics.
Yeah, we
It
thought this was going to
was,
be like a deep cut. We thought like, oh, this
yeah,
will be might get played every once in a while, but it's not going to be, not going to be one of the featured ones, but here it
right.
is.
Yeah, and I look happy to have it, and
Yeah.
liked it, and it didn't stray too much off of what the album version was like, and it was great, and even flow, and of course the speech before even flow. I think that's getting
Yeah,
discussed
yeah.
a little bit more. The calculus thing, I great, and even flow felt like a national treasure again in the way that like it didn't have the rush to it. It felt like you can groove. It felt like every part was featured at some point. So I was a big fan, and Mike had a really interesting solo in that. And when
Oh,
you
got
think
down on
about
his knees,
when you think
crawled to
about
his knees.
the 10 songs and the 310 songs that were played on this night and how the solos were approached, they were all approached kind of differently than they usually are. And I think we'll get to those when we get to
Yeah.
them. But I do want to address that I was very disappointed finding out after the show that we did not get Light Years. Very disappointed. Um,
Yeah, that's tough.
didn't ruin it for me at all, but that was the one song that I said if there was one that was a non-gigaton song that I would have wanted for my collectors, just to
Hmm.
put in the notebook, it would have been Light Years.
Yeah,
Like
if
and
you're going to Ohana, you can probably count on that one.
right, I would imagine, and boy, I'd be cursing you to death because fuck, that one just keeps eluding me, and you'd have to like that would have been I think maybe they were trying to do two kind of tributey songs back to back, and they thought, okay, well, you know what, we're doing the waiting on a friend tag after Wishlist. We don't need Light Years because we're not doing something like that off Light Years. So maybe that was the call. to kind
Yeah.
of scratch it off the spot, and then put in something like State of Love and Trust that wasn't originally in the set, and Small Town that wasn't originally in the set a little bit later. So
Yeah,
I guess
the
it made sense.
audibles that was listed on the set list.
Audibles. Audibles could be edibles too. But
Hey, you never know.
you never know coming from them. But like wish list though, like
Oh,
that
wish
you
list.
know, going back to that point of just like bringing up Charlie Watts and then
Yeah.
Norm Macdonald who passed away last week too. I don't think we realized like that Norm Macdonald and Ed had a friendship like that. It seemed like they were really close, and Ed kind of talked about having to call your friends, and like even when you haven't heard from people in a while, just call. If you're thinking about somebody, call them. Let them know you love them, kind of deal. And it felt like he was really stung by both of those losses. And look, out of 3 years, they could have done a tribute to literally anybody, and it would have made
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
But considering that those two happened within, our the last couple of weeks, that's yeah, that was pretty heavy. That was pretty
How
heavy
about this?
stuff.
Like, wish list might be back. Like, how many times we talked about, like, oh, it's just been kind of a throwaway filler for the
You're
last
you're
15
right.
years. But this tag, like, oh, like finally something tagged onto wish list again, just elevated it so much for me. This was great.
Absolutely.
I hope that wish list is back.
Yeah, absolutely. It didn't have that like the booming drum beat to it that Cameron just kind of almost was like trying to finish it before it even started. And I think some of those later versions kind of felt a little bit rushed in that aspect,
Yeah,
but
and even they had to stop and restart it didn't ruin it for me.
no, yeah, it was just obviously there's a concern in the crowd, and I didn't get to see what that concern was, so I don't know. There was some speculation afterwards that somebody had fallen. We saw a lot of people fall,
Hmm.
and that wasn't even in the GA. That was afterwards. There were a lot of people that were not in good shape after the show, unfortunately. But that's not really an important topic, unless you're thinking about going to Ohana and bringing friends to Ohana that you think could be in that situation. Please make sure that you keep an eye on them and yourself. But yeah, I think everything was good. I think they gave the thumbs up, and they just obviously the one time in all this that they're like, well, we kind of fucked up, and it's our fault for stopping basically. But they brought it back in with that waiting on a friend and changing the lyric to wishing. I'm just wishing on a friend. Very
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
And I was doing that woo. Woo! I was doing some of that. I don't know if anybody caught on to it, but I was trying. You liked Super Blood Wolf Moon. You
This
thought,
is the big surprise for me because my least
yeah.
favorite song on the record, and it comes on, and I'm like, okay, so we'll see how this goes. But I liked it. It had a little bit of bite to it. Ed was totally into it, and I thought it was kind of good.
Thought it hit exactly what my expectation was going to be for it. No less, no better. Yeah, it's a song that definitely has a lot of participation live. When after that mic solo, when they're kind of doing that breakdown, Ed was getting everybody to clap during it, and
Yeah, the hand
everybody was
claps.
really
Yeah,
into that part. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
it could be like a do the evolution moment going forward.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? There's a lot of different directions you can take this one in. Absolutely. And I would love to see what happens to it. It's still probably not in my top half of
Yeah,
favorite songs on the album. There is one coming up that I will say that has gained extreme ground by them playing it live. And that'll be talked about in just a minute. I think the next two are pretty important to talk about. Red Mosquito and Daughter. Danny Clinch on Red Mosquito. It's like picking up where we left off. They did the same thing in Boston,
right.
and it was great. And obviously Danny, it was great because we actually saw Danny come on stage with Jackson Pines earlier in the day at like like 2 o'clock whenever they played, and he
Cool.
came on, played harmonica. They played a little like a blues kind of folky blues song and they kind of told a story about like why they were playing it and stuff. It was very very good. And Jackson Pines, got to see them on two different separate occasions this weekend, and one very emotional occasion seeing them at Shorestock and playing the songs of Karen High's son who had passed away. They played his songs. They were great friends with her son Ben, going back a ways, and they were beneficiaries of the Project Matters, and that was a very emotional moment getting to see her family all just be just delighted and brought to tears during that moment was amazing and very emotional to watch. I just wanted to throw that out there because I thought it was important. But yeah, Clinch rocks with the best of them, like just
Hey, it's
wailed
his,
away on
it's
the
his
harmonica.
show. He gets to do whatever he wants.
Yeah, sure. And honestly, I think the band wanted him in on that too. So
Yeah, yeah.
Daughter, though, this was okay. This was a surprise because I think that one of the guarantees that I might have said, or I probably wrote in that prediction column, was that if you're getting Daughter, you're getting an It's Okay tag, right? Well,
You would have
fuck,
thought.
am I wrong?
Yeah, yeah.
However, this wasn't your, generic WMA, like do a line and jump out. This was as close to the full song as we've gotten in a long freaking time.
One of the best WMA tags I've ever heard.
Right? Incredible.
Just blew me away
One of my
watching it. Yeah.
one of my first like soapbox moments from this show that came off of those Fenway weekends way back 3 years ago. And one of the first things that I wanted people to like recognize as one of my talking points was that I wanted WMA to go back to being a full song. And I said that almost every episode that we either talked about Daughter or talked about WMA. And if they keep doing WMA like this, I don't have to ask anymore. I got my wish.
Right.
This, like, it's having your cake and eating it too, because you're getting Daughter, and Daughter sounds great. And the transition from Daughter into WMA is perfect. The whole, with the crowd responding to it too, and everybody's good in that crowd. That's even though it's a festival crowd, everybody knows that you got to do the whoa, oh, whoa, and they were doing the whole thing. And then WMA, like, came out of nowhere. The Jesus Greets Me just looks just like me. We were like, what the fuck? Wow. Blown away by it. I think top 3 moment of the show. I think it has to be.
I'm not going to do that now. I'm not going to spoil it, but wouldn't be surprised when we get to this if it is.
Right. Take the Long Way. What'd you think?
Really good. Surprised that they played it.
100%.
Would have expected a retrograde here, or whoever said even. But yeah, I mean it's just another thing. Like 2 old songs, then a new song. 2 old songs, then a new song. 2 old songs, then a new song, and they sprinkle another one in here. Take the Long Way. Very cool.
My point on Take the Long Way that I made way back when the album came out was that it was going to be the Gigaton's version of like a Get Right, where, they dabble a little bit. And look, there's still time. And Get Right had its moment where it sounded really good live too.
Like an Evacuation, it's got so many moving parts to it.
Sure. And I thought it was like a flawless performance. Considering those factors, that drum beat really kicked in live when that outside of the verse where that kind of kicks in and those guitars get really heavy and then it kind of bounces back and forth between that and the verse. That sounded really really good. I was very impressed by that. I was very impressed with the vocals on that too. And yeah, good live song. Good live song. Don't take it for granted because it's the 8th song on a new album. That's for sure. I guess I did that. I maybe I didn't care for the album version. Maybe I thought that didn't care for the song because I didn't think it would be a good live song. But fuck, they've surprised me once before. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. Well, fuck. I'll go to more shows next time and I'll shut my mouth. So yeah, loved it.
Then here we're getting to the big emotional moments here.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Talk about this one.
Elderly woman behind the counter in a small town and given a fly back to back. I took video of Elderly Woman, and right from the 1 2 3 4 2 3, I was like sparked in my mind. I'm like, oh my god, like I'm hearing this song live after singing it to Ben for 2 months. And, it kind of being a song that he's reacted to. And, I thought about that the whole entire time. I took the video, sent the video to my wife. And before the video even went through, I held the shift on the cap locks and said, oh my God, they're playing Given a Fly back to fucking back. And that's the other song that I kind of have really, that I've attributed to my son. And it's still weird to say my son. It's still weird. I'm still in that like phase of parenting here where first time I'm away from a kid for more than an hour or something like that, and it feels like I've come back to a whole new child. But
yeah, I think my son was about maybe a month old when I went to go see Pearl Jam in 2016, and Given to Fly was the one at that show that just hit me like a ton of bricks.
I have to go back and listen to the actual version of it because I feel like it was way more emotional than I even comprehended. I think I was just so in the moment that I wasn't even focusing on.
Yeah, I almost lost it on my couch watching this because you see Stone like thumping his chest as they're playing along, and that just hit me like, oh man, like we haven't really talked about Stone, but he was like joyous throughout this whole show. There's no other way to say it.
Right
like,
on Stone's side, saw all of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, I think now thinking back and just kind of getting some muscle memory out of it, it does seem like Given a Fly had more of a kind of a grace to it instead of the kind of, like we said with the other songs, like none of this rush factor, none of this get through a song to get to the next. Like it's more of appreciate this song because there is beauty in this song. And I think that the biggest beneficiary of that was probably Given a Fly, and honestly probably Porch too. We can get to Porch in a minute, but man, was Porch good. But yeah, Given a Fly and Elderly Woman being back to back and being the two songs that I've like been showing my son and singing to my son for the last couple months I don't know if things were created for me and made for me, and I wouldn't expect that two very, very common songs in Pearl Jam sets to be back to back would have anything to do with me, but it felt like it was meant for me. It really did. And I'm sure it was meant for many people.
That's the power of those songs, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And look, you could have made anything into something like that and said, "Oh, that was for me." That they did this and kind of figure out an equation for it. But that one was easy to figure it out. I figured out the minute that we were getting Given a Fly that, oh shit, this is my little section.
Yeah.
State of Love and Trust wasn't originally on the set list. It was in the audibles, and they put that in for Evolution. And great. I think they got a little tossed up on it at the end, and they kind of did when the barrel shakes and directly at my head, like they went back to that line instead of holding out that listen. So yeah, I mean that's ring rust, and you're always going to get a little bit of it, but I think that's again another beneficiary of playing a song that had such a fast, just go attitude towards it and vibe. It was another that just bounced, that you were able to have more of a groove to. And this is funny. So I said this on the podcast a couple of times. I don't bring it up too often. I bring it up whenever this song gets played at a show that I went to. But my thing with State of Love and Trust is I have something called State of Love and Trust aerobics, where I can't help but pogo to it. So I was in sand, and the whole show is in the sand, trying to pogo, bouncing in front of the guy in front of me, bouncing into the guy in front of me, bouncing into Chris who was behind me, and trying to go left to right. I'm like, nope, can't do this. I need a seat for this one.
Yep. Yep. Not the place for that.
No. The sand, while a nice change of pace, it didn't help that I was wearing sneakers because the day before I had some sandal issues the day before that I could not wear my sandals to that show even though I was trying to plan to. But yeah, the sand was definitely, if there was one enemy, it would be that. But it was a nice change of pace rather than like concrete or mud or something like that. So um, Better Man followed that, and Better Man opened, and I mean we can get into a lot of this, but opened with a story about Bruce and how Bruce was pulled over after taking a shot at tequila and telling some stories to a few guys while he was riding on his motorcycle when he stopped. And the whole weekend I kind of said like, there was a point where I had asked somebody, "Hey, have you been drinking?" And they said, "Yeah, I've had something." I'm like, "I'll drive," because New Jersey liquor laws and DUI laws are fucking awful. And I think the thing that I actually attributed that to is if they booked Bruce, if they put Bruce in the can,
That's
they'll do
right.
it to you too.
That's right.
Like there's nobody safe if Bruce isn't safe. And Ed made some amazing points that obviously, I'll applaud him for it because they all should have happened. Yes, bring a police escort to his house, and then maybe Bruce will tell you some stories at his house. Like there, and maybe the guy that arrested him thought, hey, he can go back down to the precinct and give everybody autographs and pictures and stuff like that, and he could just do that back at the precinct. But that's that wasn't the best way to go about it because it wasn't bad press for Bruce. It was bad press for you, asshole. And now you're the worst person in New Jersey for doing it. So,
Yeah, Ed was in. We mentioned there's a lot of good banter and a lot of good speeches and a lot of heartfelt stuff, but he was just picked back up where he left off in the full storyteller mode at the show. He was
absolutely,
such a good mood. You could tell he was just so happy to be back on stage with that band.
absolutely, and yeah, it's his element. What can you
Yeah.
say? I
Talkative
think
night for Ed.
right, and I think that he probably had so much more to say, and there will be a lot to say in the
Oh, yeah.
future.
Yeah.
But I think the amount and the topics that were brought up were perfect for the situations in which they were brought up. So yeah, of course, the Bruce story is fantastic, and we will obviously talk about Bruce because there were a lot of rumors. And what I even kind of fell into that a little bit of a trap that, okay, yeah, if they're gonna sound check with a choir and
Yeah.
do My City of Ruins and do the Rising, like the Rising is another Jersey anthem, if they're doing the Rising, how can they not bring Bruce up? But I don't know whether that was just a thing where they're like, okay, let's try it and maybe we'll do it just us. And maybe they had planned for Bruce to do it. And but here's the thing: I don't think I would have liked to see Bruce because then the show would have became uh, Bruce plays with Pearl Jam, and Bruce would have been the headliner. Bruce at Asbury Park. Bruce does this, Bruce does that, and he did it with Pearl Jam, and Pearl Jam was, and you know what? I actually saw one of the headlines about this show was that it said former Chili Pepper guitarist Josh Klinghoffer joins Pearl Jam full time. And I'm like, really? Like that's what you're taking away from the show, and not like, okay, the first show that Pearl Jam has played in 3 years. Fucking Rock and Roll Hall of Famers. I mean, one of the best band for my money in the '90s.
Yeah, people are just trying to get clicks. You can't.
I
pay
I
attention to
understand
all
that,
stuff.
but
Yeah.
look, I think there are enough clicks to be had to say like Pearl Jam put on a fucking performance for the ages. I'd click that 10 times just to get that website more money.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work that way. I get it.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
But how about that tag on Better Man?
Okay, so I'm going to tell a little story that probably doesn't get told because this comes from the Patti Smith set. So Patti Smith said that she was walking on the beach with Lenny, her guitarist, who's going to come back up in this show, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it was very quiet on the beach early morning, and there was a little guy just hanging out in the water." And we look out and we're like, "Oh, that's nice. A guy hanging out in the water, surfing, whatever he was doing." And that little guy happened to be Eddie.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
think that we saw she posted something. There's a picture of them
I
together
saw
that was
that.
posted. Yeah.
Very cool. And I think one of the first things that Ed said this whole entire night was like, we are just beyond the moon to be playing for Patti Smith
Yeah.
and how much respect he has for her.
Yeah.
And, you know, I felt it when we were watching her. I'm like, yeah, we're, you know, she put out one of the best albums of all time. Like, she's an absolute legend and a wonderful songwriter and somebody that needs to be, you know, they played a Bob Dylan song in there, and they actually played Because the Night too,
Yeah.
and that led to it a lot more Bruce rumors. Oh well, if they're doing that, that means Bruce. But you know, look, Bruce doesn't have to be everywhere. The show worked, didn't it? And
Yeah.
she was
Wasn't
great.
he just with John Cougar Mellencamp somewhere?
Yeah, I
There
don't
was
know
that
what
picture
that
was going around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are in town for this or for whatever, but I, you know, it was nice. It was nice not to have something override what the night was about.
Right. It's just not. No, this wasn't the right time for that.
Right. But Patti Smith did not play People Had the Power. People Had the Power was actually something that I had predicted in my set list. And I
Yeah.
don't know if I get half a point for it being a
I
tag.
gave you a full point for that, man.
Did you really?
Oh yeah.
Cool.
But
I'll take it.
that's a good pull.
Nice. And it being the tag on Better Man when you expect the you know the tried and true save it for later like and
Yeah.
the call and
Yeah.
response, but the people at the like I was able to I heard that guitar that dun 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 dun. I heard that guitar and I look back and I might have been that guy in the show that was just like, yeah, I know everything as it's happening kind of deal. And if I didn't, I'm like, whoa, okay, you got me on this. But I knew right when they hit that, I'm like, oh, we're getting the people at the power tag. That was really, really freaking cool. Yeah, great moment. Better Man, of course. You know, it's a staple.
And like I
But
love that this was a greatest hit set, but they're still finding ways to mix it up, like waiting on a
yeah,
friend tagged on the wish list. People have the
mhm,
power mix tagged on the better man. I don't know if
different
that's ever happened
things.
before. Yeah. You're still getting some unique things. Like, yeah, just very, very well done.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It didn't feel like cookie cutter at all.
Yeah.
Maybe on paper it could look cookie cutter outside of the Gigaton, but I didn't get that idea. It was just Pearl Jam at this point, and honestly, because of the atmosphere and because of the environment and how they only had a specific time that they had to hit in 2 hours, they made it so. And I like that, and I probably said this before, and I can't remember now. Sorry, I'm running off some fumes here, but I like that how they didn't try too hard to get everything in. They made everything speak for itself.
Yeah, they just let it be what it was. Yeah.
Absolutely. Porch was awesome. And
How about that tease of the rafter climb? Did you think he was going to go a little bit higher, get a little bit further up?
No, I did not. I did not. However, do you remember a story that was told on this podcast a while back from Johnny Firecloud that told this?
Yeah.
And he mentioned that he had took the best photo of his life of Ed on stage, and it was him like in mid smile, and it was perfect. I took a bunch of. I just kept taking a run on of photos when he was holding that. He was holding on to the rafter, and I took the best photo of Ed that I've ever taken in my life. I don't know, maybe I'll have a professional camera up there. I had mostly a Polaroid with me all weekend. If you were with me, you probably saw me with a Polaroid. But obviously it wasn't going to work in that atmosphere, it being, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, whenever it was. But I was able to get a fantastic picture of Ed, and you've probably seen it. It's gotten more retweets and likes on our Twitter than the Sea.Hear.Now post about Pearl Jam, saying
Yeah,
like Pearl
like
Jam
400,
headlined.
400 people agree with you or something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I feel vindicated in that, and it probably got us about 20 followers to follow the podcast too.
at
So,
least.
oof. I was very happy with that. I was happy with a lot of the photos I
Yeah.
took, and I that was one of the pacts that I made with myself at this show was I wanted to take more pictures and I wanted to document my time there and to like remember those memories of being around people because I feel like that's very important and something that maybe doesn't get discussed enough even in shows that like even PJ20 that we talked about like we talked a lot about set lists and situations and stuff like that but I think having a lot of visual memories from this show will help keep those memories alive and seeing the next time I see and look I think that this is going to be a constant foursome that heads to these shows now Dave and Chris and I think that there are going to be a real lot of memories from Island Noodles to Wawa to I mean you name it anything that happened on Friday there's just a lot of stuff that that will go down as being very cherished friends.
Nice.
I'm very fortunate to have solidified a lot of good friendships on this weekend.
You know
You
what?
know,
I'm looking at this set list, and this hadn't occurred to me before, but
I have no friends on the set list, by the way.
yeah,
Just
yeah, yeah.
they feel like friends.
It, yeah, I'm hoping to. You and I are going to get to a show together at some point next year,
Yeah.
hopefully. Um, I'm looking at this set list, and this hadn't occurred to me. Look at this: 2 songs from 10, 2 songs from Versus, 2 songs from Vitalogy, 2 songs from No Code, 2 songs from Yield. How about that?
Well, overall there were 3 from 10 adding
But right,
live.
just the main set, just the
The
main
main
set.
set. Yeah, I
Yeah,
noticed that.
yeah.
I noticed that. Yeah, and absolutely nothing from binaural. Even
Nothing
though
from
they
Riot Act, nothing from
nothing
Avocado,
right, they crossed off
nothing
light years,
from
but
yeah.
no
Just
nothing from the other
oh,
5.
that's so interesting that that's how it worked out.
Yeah,
He's always thinking about that stuff. They know that
right,
was on purpose.
right. Give him a little bit of everything. This
Yeah,
I think I had like 7 or 8 songs from 10 in my predicted set list.
right,
I think I
right.
had that many, but I like how we didn't get. I mean, I don't like that we didn't get Black. I wanted Black. I like
Oh,
how is Black not even on this?
right, right.
Somebody was singing that after when walking out of the I don't know what to call it the beach I guess but he wasn't on the beach, it was on the boardwalk wherever it was, and they were just I think playing Black on their phone. I'm like, oh shit, we didn't get Black at this show,
Yeah. Oh,
and I didn't
can we
think
talk
about
about
it.
all the cuts? Like, my God, it would have been. You didn't get Light
River
Years. You didn't
Cross,
get River Cross. You didn't get Do the
All Along the
Evolution.
Watchtower,
A Watchtower. Like, oh,
even Unthought Known and Down
down. Yeah.
were yeah.
And the rumor was they had sound checked Satan's Bed.
I actually said that. Oh, what song was it? It might have been Never Destination. The drum beat to Never Destination
Ah.
sounded like Satan's Bed, and I looked back to Chris and like Satan's Bed. We're getting Satan's Bed, and then ended up being Never Destination.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean that would have thrown the whole thing for a loop
Oh,
if
no kidding.
Satan's Bed happened in the set. Jeez.
No kidding. But
Back to Porch real quick though.
yeah.
What'd you think of this solo? I had never heard anything like this Porch solo before, and I don't even know how to explain it.
Yeah, it's just, and I'm gonna have to go back and listen to it. I haven't had a chance to go back and listen to it, but this whole show, I think Mike was just on fire, and that we say that all the time, but at this show especially, after all that time off, for him to finally have these moments where, yes, the Gigaton songs are very Mike central. Like he is one of the stars of that record, and I think he was just chomping at the bit to get out and play and just go nuts. And even flow we talked about, corduroy, the solo and Never Destination is great. Just he was. I mean, I know the live stream I was watching was right in front of him, so we had a good view of him a lot of the time. And just watching him, you could just tell he was just, and all of them. This goes for all of them. Just so excited to just be there and be playing, and finally get this like monkey off their backs. That like, oh, we haven't been able to play. We haven't been able to play. Like all that pent up, like everything from the last 3 years was they were able to finally let that out, and it all came out through Mike and on these solos. It's just great to watch.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I thought Porch was taken to the next level and completely inspired, and it wasn't the same old down, which is great.
Yeah,
But I think one of my things with Porch the last handful of years was that it wasn't that they weren't trying hard anymore. It was that they had a formula that worked, and they kept going with it. And after a while, it's like, okay, they closed every main set in 2018 with Porch.
yep.
That's just what they did. And while that's fully okay, and I think a lot of people would not complain about that, it became sort of a guarantee. And this made Porch feel like it's now back into the unpredictable category again. And I like that.
It
because
inspired
that's
Ed
what it should be.
get on those rafters. So
Right?
yeah, he's doing something right.
Right? I think that's what this song should be. This song should be the song that can be unpredictable. Like, even Flow can sometimes be unpredictable too.
Yeah, that'll be something to watch for at Ohana.
Absolutely. Yep. We'll be watching for a lot of things. But one thing that won't happen in Ohana, I don't think Ed will call a choir 2 hours before they're sound checking, and one guy that took a call in a classroom and rushed on over to get to the beach. I don't think
I,
that's happening.
I
Nor
wrote
Bruce
down their
cover.
names. Shout out to Josh, Jason, Alexander, Simone. I think there was a Michelle in there as well.
There
But
are only 4.
yeah, I think there might have been someone behind that was playing some stringed instrument.
No,
I couldn't tell.
no, there were only 4 of them.
Okay,
Somebody's last name might have been Alexander or something like that.
maybe.
But yeah, they were great. I
Yeah.
really
Oh,
liked
did a
that
great
moment.
job.
But
Oh,
however, I think a lot of people thought, especially when Ed said at the end, I wouldn't do this if he. It felt like he said he wasn't here. He might have said if they weren't here. But
yeah. I think it was
he's
if they weren't here. Yeah.
okay. I think a lot of people kind of got that hunch after he said that, and kind of taking the words out of context, was that okay? This is the moment where we get the Springsteen appearance, which that doesn't happen.
Right.
So, but again, like, I don't think it's a loss. I think I think it's a great show regardless, whether Bruce is there or not. If Bruce is there, yes, it gets elevated and it becomes a really big moment. But then it kind of it doesn't become a Pearl Jam moment anymore. It becomes a Bruce moment. So I like that they kept this all about Pearl Jam at this show.
Yeah.
And
There'll be time for that later.
Absolutely. So yes, the City of Rubens was great. They scratched River Cross, and the one thing that I tweeted out beforehand was right in front of me, the pump organ. That was like one of the first things they brought out was the pump organ, and the first thing I tweeted in that time, and there's another thing I want to address in a second. I should have addressed it in the beginning. I tweeted a picture of the pump organ. I said, well, we know at least one song that we're getting from Gigaton tonight. And yeah, they didn't do it. I was very surprised.
Yeah, that's of all the ones to cut. Like, I would have thought River Cross would have been one of the ones that they would for sure want to play.
Well, my guess is that
would have been cut.
Yeah, my guess is that My City of Ruins kind of hit the emotional aspect, and they didn't need 2 like completely emotional songs in there to get that point across.
Still would have been a huge epic moment.
Of course, and I think that it's going to happen at one of the Johannas. Like, they're not going to drag that organ around and not play it somewhere. But it was out there. It was out on the stage. It wasn't out on the stage before the encore. but
Yeah.
they had brought it out. So the whole they were deciding they were trying to get it in there, I'm sure. But they go right in My City of Ruins into Alive. I think Alive was the only song that I thought suffered a little bit from the pace change. I thought that it was a little drowsy, and I think I wanted Alive to be that electric song that everybody can really just go wild on and rock to. Not that it was bad in any sense of the form, but I thought that it needed another bit of juice like regular versions of Alive do, and I think that might be them trying to translate that into the new form, and maybe not on this night figuring that out yet, and maybe the next night in Ohana, this weekend, or at the encore, they really will get that
Yeah,
down. But
I think it'll come.
right, I look, it's the song that they cherish, if not the most, then up there. It gets played in that spot every night. Of course, it's going to be cherished. But I don't think it had the same feel as a Porch or an Even Flow, where they were able to translate. And I'll say just those two because they, you kind of relate the 10 songs. But yeah, getting Alive and hearing those lyrics again is super important, and the whole crowd doing the "of course there is," like, what a big moment. I think a lot of people needed that song, and it's a guarantee. But when you get it, it's that whole idea of, this is it, this is the end of the night, and we need to celebrate one last time. And the celebration really came in Rockin' in the Free World. Lenny Kaye, Patti Smith's guitarist and songwriting partner, came out and honestly shredded. He shredded. He was fucking great during Rockin' in the Free World. Him and Stone going back and forth, and I have a great photo of the two of them just dueling together. And they
Nice.
are
Yeah.
just, yeah, they're enjoying it and they're loving it together. And again, like, Ed always wants to pay tribute to those who paved the way before him. And yes, they could have brought out Patti Smith. They could have brought out whoever else from earlier in the day, but like Lenny Kaye is probably somebody that doesn't get any recognition at all. And
Oh,
to
yeah. He
bring,
goes back to 74, 75. Like,
Mhm.
he's been doing it for nearly 50 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can tell by looking at him. He looks like he's like youthful in spirit, but man, he's up there like in his
Oh,
70s
he's
still doing
74,
that.
I think. Yeah, I looked it up. Yeah.
That's insane. That's insane that he's still doing that and rocking like that. I give him all the credit in the world. He looked great. And that was the show. Like, Ed kind of had like one last thing, like a thanks for being here, like in the middle of Rockin' in the Free World, and that felt really good. It, it was a full Pearl Jam show. It might have been 20 songs, and it might have felt like, to some people, it could have felt like, hey, well, usually they'll play 10 more, and usually they'll play for this amount of more time, and maybe in the past I would have been one of those people that would have said that. However, during this, I was more than fulfilled with what I got. I really was, and it was because of the quality of what I got it, and not that superseding what the quantity of it was. And I know the quantity has been such a big identity as to who Pearl Jam is live and what they bring to the live table, but I think that the quality on this night just superseded that all, and made me just forget that this is a band that had gone out there and played 30 songs. Because you know what? I think those days are over.
Yeah.
You and I
Yeah.
texted about that a couple hours ago, and we both said this is not who they are anymore, and it's a changed band, and we got to accept that. And I think that if this is the way that they're presenting this for us to accept, challenge accepted, and fully welcomed, and with open arms.
Yeah. I mean, what a great way for them to come back. Like, it might not have been the way, that we thought it was going to go down, but just I'm sure everybody left in a good mood and everybody left like wanting more. and it's on to the next one. You just can't wait to see him again. Like it just made me like, oh God, announce the tours for next year. Just announce it. Like give me something to look forward to. Something where I know that I'm going to be in the same building.
Right. There was not one person that wasn't smiling. And
Yeah.
speaking of which, the smile that I'll remember the most from this show is Clarissa's, who I mentioned before. And she lives, from what I remember, she lives in Columbus, Ohio, but she's from Mexico originally. And it being her first Pearl Jam show, and her, you know, have Mexican flag on her, and being like, she was not even 5 feet. And the whole entire time, she was just like, I need somebody tall. I need to be on somebody's shoulders. And during a live, she got it. And she got so many crowd shots, like from the video screen that was above the band. She was in so many of those, and she was waving the flag, and I got a ton of great pictures of her. And after that, she was just so happy to have been there. And I think that watching that and seeing that all unfold made a lot of my night. And so she's now a supporter of the podcast, and we had talked about the podcast a little bit, and she was like, yeah, let's pass these stickers around, let's get them around, and stuff like that. So yeah, I hope she is into this community and wants to be part of this podcast community, because
Great.
we welcome her in. She's a home run hitter right there.
Great. Yeah, that's great.
Okay, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to, like, it's almost like we really lived on Four Legs it without playing any music, and I didn't feel comfortable playing music on this because it's just not
No, yeah, we'll wait for the bootleg, and we'll do it up.
exactly
We'll do it up right.
right.
But yeah, I don't think we do anything. I think you're gonna have to wait for the real episode whenever that comes.
Okay, I think that's fair, and there have been talks that this could happen later this year, but we got to see how Ohana's go. We really
Yeah,
do,
we'll
because
see.
there might be
Yeah.
something really good from the Ohana shows that makes sense story wise for us to talk about. So,
Yeah, maybe if you guys ask Santa Claus really nicely, you might get one of these later on.
Santa John Farrar. I mean, you can grow out that beard a little more, right?
Hey, you got a kid now. You got to start shopping as well. That kid's got to
Uh,
have his first Christmas.
Trust me, I know. Boy, do I know. And if I know the grandparents that are buying for Christmas, I don't think I'll have a problem buying it.
Right, right.
you know, the not the bare minimum, but the amount that is sufficient, because we will be coming home
Yeah.
with a lot of gifts on Christmas, no doubt about it.
But yeah, we were originally just gonna do like a run through, but this show needed like so much to talk about, and
Yeah,
we ran a little bit more than we expected, but hopefully you guys are into
I
it. Like just such a big moment, the first show in 3 years, the first show that we've been able to cover like as it's happening on the podcast, and just
mhm.
it just couldn't have been a bigger moment, and they stepped up 100%.
And I want to thank everybody that was following along on our socials. Like that was one thing that I was a little I'll say that it was one thing that I wanted, and I wanted kind of everybody that wasn't there to get a little bit of the piece of the experience, and we're hoping that, and we've put plans in place to hopefully get Ohana to become something like that too. So hopefully that can happen, and hopefully we can get some photos and some live updates and things like that. But yeah, I'm glad there were a lot of people looking in, and a lot of people interested in what was going on, because it was important. And like we mentioned, Tom Jones up at the top, he made a lot of people's nights that
Oh yeah.
couldn't be there, that had no means of being there. It was important for a lot of people to see this show, and Pearl Jam should have live streamed it anyway, but
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
couldn't happen. But
Maybe we'll get a DVD at some point.
we'll just have to see.
Yeah.
DVD is kind of a dead medium, so maybe we'll get a Nugs release.
Yeah, yeah, maybe.
I will take it. So
But
okay,
we've got another episode coming up this week, right?
we do. Yeah, we're actually doing Randall's Island. It seems like that's kind of burying a big lead a little bit, but we're on such a hot. Actually, no. Shit, I'm wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think
Because
you're
we've
jumping the gun
already
a little bit. Jumping the gun a little bit.
we already recorded the episode for Toronto 1996 last week.
Yeah.
I'm already
Yeah.
looking ahead to what we're doing this week. So yeah, Randall's Island is coming, and for everybody salivating right now that wants to hear a Randall's Island episode, you're gonna get it, but you're gonna get a Toronto 1996 episode first, which is a great a great appetizer for all this. It might be one of the most perfect 1996 shows that I've ever heard in my life. I don't know if that's too much of a tease, but I absolutely loved it, and just request everybody go and check it out when it comes out on Wednesday. It'll be great.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. Show number 1 of 4, or maybe more. Probably not more, but maybe more this year in the books. So happily able to be there, and we'll never forget number 21. That's for damn sure. And I'm very fortunate, and I know I mentioned specific names, but other people that came by, and even people that didn't come by, the ones that said that they were trying to look for us, and it became too much of a hassle to find us, because it was just so hard to get moving in that pit. Like, just the fact that people wanted to be around us during the show felt special. It felt like, after 3 years, we were doing something right. That, like, hey, like, let's be with the guys that do the podcast, because they know what they're talking about. It'll be fun to kind of see their perspective of things. And I hope for those that were around us, and I know a shout out to Julia Feller, who came by, and I had no idea was coming by. She's like, "Hey, you're Randy, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." "Oh, yeah, I know who you are." Like, it was great to see that she was gravitated towards us from just finding us on Twitter, and she's a patron. So yeah, it was great meeting her, and a lot of the other people, even somebody from a new Pearl Jam Discord that Chris introduced me to, found me, and I was just like, "Oh, okay, cool, very cool." So yeah, I was very, very delighted to meet a lot of very good people this weekend, and hopefully those that I didn't get to meet, or those that I have already met, will get to see each other very soon. And unfortunately, it won't be at the Johannes, but hey, it might be in 2022. Let's hope.
Yep.
All right, guys.
To be continued. To
be continued. Hopefully we can do something like this. It probably won't be as in-depth next week, but on Thursday this week, we're going to be doing with Anthony. We'll be doing a little live stream, basically kind of the same, but think about sports analysis. Think about sports analysis. It'll be more of a Sports Center type version of how to cover a Pearl Jam show, which should be an interesting take on it, and it'll be done through Facebook and live streams on Facebook. So if that's something you're interested in, we're also getting Dave from livefootsteps.org onto that to give some of his stats and give that perspective. So if you're interested, check it on out, and it should be probably plastered over the Pearl Jam podcast community Facebook page. Okay, until the next one. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, everybody.
This may be the end. We're here not for much longer, though we may be parting ways. I miss you already. Miss you always. And now we can see you next time.
Saw, heard, done.